Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Foresight TV. If I seem a little discombobulated, I am, because just as I was ready to hit the start button, it was a user error, but I actually killed the tab and I just disappeared off the platform. And so that's why nobody would know but me that we're starting a couple minutes late. So I'm here today on Friday. Happy Friday. It's Centenarian. Did I do that right, Cole? Happy Centenarian Day.
I think you did it.
Celebrating those folks who have made it to 100 years. I've got a few years to go to hit that, though it's getting closer every year. And I hope I get to celebrate one of those as one of those people in about, 32 years. So, but before we get started, let's do this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. So, Cole, I'm excited to have you. I've got to do a commercial moment here before we get started, but I want to sort of set the stage for just a second. You said, as we were talking before we went on the air, you talked about what your difference is. And the first thing I want to say is that most often when I talk to operators, I say, well, what makes you different? What makes you better than your competition? They really struggle with that. But you actually volunteered it, and you said that your big thing was fun. So I can hardly wait to dig into that. But first, before we get started, I want to say thanks to KARE with a K. They are the agency that other agencies hate because they're not really an agency. They're an app-based platform that will give you amazing caregivers to fill in staff when you've got staffing holes at a much more reasonable cost. And if you have somebody that you use through KARE and you decide you want to hire them, you can do that without any cost or big penalty. And they are passionate about creating great work experiences, about helping senior living operators create great work experiences. And so if you are struggling with your agency staff billing that you just hate, this is a great way to make that better and maybe even recruit some people. And I want to say just one other thing. If you're a frontline worker and you would like to maybe change up what you're doing, you ought to talk to them and see if they've got some shifts that you can go work in and have an amazing experience. And this would also be true for nurses. So we love the support of KARE. We love the people at KARE. They are passionate, sold out for senior living. Cole, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start by having you just talk a little bit about who you are, what you do, your community, and then we will jump right into it. Conversation.
Sure. Well, I got started a long time ago. I joined Life Care Services back in 1997 and knew I wanted to go into senior living. Grew up in a small town where I was lucky enough to have both sets of grandparents. Both my grandfathers were World War II vets, and spent an incredible amount of time with them growing up. My circle of friends up until about 7th, 8th grade were 70 years old. And so it was just a natural relationship. And when I learned that there was an industry like senior living and senior housing, it was a natural fit for me.
So how did you get your first job in senior living?
I did an internship at a community in Dublin, Ohio called Friendship Village of Dublin. And it went pretty well. I was invited to apply to Life Care Services and got my first job in Honolulu, Hawaii, and spent 10 years in Hawaii, thus the Aloha shirt. Friendship Village Tempe does Aloha shirt every Friday. So now we've got our staff, our residents, everybody in it, but brought that element of the islands back to Tempe. And I'm the executive director here at Friendship Village Tempe. Started with them in 2007.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about your community. It's CCRC population, resident population, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we're a life plan community. We have about 800 seniors living on our campus, about 570 independent living apartments and cottages. We have this incredible campus where nobody could ever afford to be that inefficient with land ever again. But we have about 300 cottages that surround the perimeter of our campus. And then we have, like I said, some apartment buildings as well as assisted living. We have assistance in living. Our healthcare center, of course, does short and long-term care services, rehab. And then we also have memory care and a relationship with Hospice of the Valley, where they have a presence on our campus. So really shouldn't be too much that comes our way that we're not able to handle for a resident that decides to live here.
Great. And I should have asked you if I could ask you this in advance. I didn't, so we'll just try it and see what happens. How's occupancy?
Occupancy is incredible. We're in the high 90% occupancy. We have, 50, 60 people who are on what we call a ready list, where they've put $10,000 down. That would suggest they're serious, and then pick 3 floor plans, and if something comes up, we give them a call. So
that is a great place to be. And then how about staffing? How are you doing in staffing?
We take our employer responsibility very serious. And we have people who have been here for more than 40 years. More than half of our staff have been here for 5 or more years. And I think the last I heard, we had about 15 openings, which at the height of COVID and the challenges then, we were in the 90s. So that gives you, I guess, a point of reference.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about what makes your campus, your community special, unique. You talked to me, you gave us the word fun, and we didn't really get much into it besides that. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, and it really is. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Nobody's going to out-fund Friendship Village. It just can't be done. It starts with our advertising. We're a little edgy. We're not afraid to scare folks, and they may not be for us. And, it'd be silly to think we're for everybody. But, we put out a mailer to everybody that said how much we love the F word. And that certainly gets your attention. But then when you open it up, it's freedom, it's fun, it's flexibility, all of those things. And so it starts from the beginning. And then once you get here, we have more than 120 activities and things happening on our campus that our residents can engage in. And there's just so much. You could truly be you. The biggest complaint I think we have is there's just too much going on. And sometimes you're putting things, I have a hard time deciding what I want to do for my day. So the fun, we push it. Our dining services program, I would put up against anyone's. We have 5 restaurants on our campus getting ready to open up a rooftop restaurant for this second building we just opened up last week, and it'll be featuring a brewery. So we're brewing beer.
Great. And how old is it? How old is the campus, the community?
The village started in 1980, so we're working on 43 years right now, and that's what we're taking down are these 43-year-old apartment buildings and replacing them with new homes, lots of natural light, high ceilings, open floor plans, really what everybody's looking for.
So if you've got that kind of occupancy, how are you able to demolish buildings and rebuild?
It's very, very tricky, Steve. We're getting ready to start on the second one. The first building was the 40 apartments. We did not have to move anyone around. It was a free space where we could build it. The second building, we had to take 64 people out of their apartments and rebuilt the building with 64 more apartments. So we basically work with them to identify the same floor plan they have. And when a home in our original apartments opens up, we'll show it to them, and we make the new home look just like their old home. Of course, they're not out of pocket any money, but it's a big deal. But the residents at Friendship Village, this is amazing. We're blessed to have this, but they put the greater good of Friendship Village in front of themselves, and that is not easy to find these days.
So I want to actually, and I always find this. Let me see if I can set a little bit of background here. I'm always I'm fascinated by, in love with people who are successful leaders. And I think that you gauge success largely by low turnover and high occupancy in buildings. And because what you're experiencing there, as you know, is not the norm for the industry right now. I think that life plan communities tend to be doing a little bit better than rental for profit, but a lot of them are still struggling. We've seen a number of those buildings over the last 24 months that have changed hands and have gone through some real financial distress. So you're obviously a guy who is running an organization, a community doesn't have any of those problems. What do you do as a leader to make sure that it all works?
Steve, it starts and stops with being real. People can sense real. They know what it looks like. They know what it sounds like. They know what it feels like. And I think when they find real, it just means an incredible amount to them. And that's about all I got, to be honest. But it certainly works. And it works on the resident side, the staff side. We have 3 generations of employees working here at the same time: grandparents, parents, and grandchildren, children. We've got more than 40 second generation residents living at our campus right now, whose moms and dads once worked at lived at Friendship Village, and I know most of them. And so it's just these relationships, and transparency. That's another thing. People love transparency, and I think that's part and parcel to being real. And if we mess up, we run it up the flagpole. We point towards it. We talk about it. We don't sweep anything under the rug, and it's unbelievable. I don't know.
So let's talk a little bit more about transparency. I'm really fascinated by this idea of transparency. I was talking to a good friend of mine who is the CEO of a moderately large not-for-profit organization. He's fairly, well, I'm not going to say more than that. But except to say that he is fairly new there. And one of the things that he discovered when he came into the organization was that they sort of historically have not had a lot of transparency, lack of transparency between leadership and residents, leadership and staff. And he's somebody who's just really big into transparency. How did you get to that point where you realized that transparency was important? And did you see any downsides of it?
It's a great question. And again, as part of being real, all I've ever done is do what's natural to me. And I grew up in a town of 1,400 people, Steve, and it's a small farm town, and it doesn't take long for the word to get out. If you're not a good dude, everybody knows. And so I think you live your life a little differently, but I think there's a lot of folks out there that are afraid to be wrong. And good Lord, I'm wrong 10, 15 times a day, and celebrate each one of them. And I think when you're not afraid to be wrong, it's so much easier to be transparent when something doesn't go right. You just, hey, things happen, and here's what happened. And when you give folks the facts, they don't have to make up what they think happened. And there's so much to be said for giving them what they need so they don't have to fill in the gaps. We've earned the benefit of the doubt here at Friendship Village. It's when things go sideways, people come directly to me because they know I'm going to be honest with them. And when you have that benefit of the doubt in a relationship, it's unbelievable what you can do. If you don't have it, it's unbelievable what you can't do.
So one of the questions that I have that I'm really fascinated by, and you're in a single campus, so it's a little bit different, but I think the principles still apply, is that I know a number of leaders who I just think are, amazing, compassionate leaders. They're open to learning, and they're not afraid to be wrong. And they're always asking, how do I get better? And what's the next thing we can do? But the big struggle they seem to have is actually percolating that down to department heads, middle managers, and it sounds like you sort of cracked that formula. What are you doing to make that happen?
Yeah, we call people will call themselves lifers. They'll come to Friendship Village, they'll feel our culture, which is unbelievably powerful. And I think when you are part of an organization that wins, where you have satisfied residents, their families are happy, we do the right thing no matter what, even if it's going to negatively impact us operationally, we do the right thing. And when they find that and they call themselves lifers, they become what we call village people. And, it's even my team, they know what I'm going to say every single time. It's so consistent. It's so predictable, probably to a fault, that they're effectively able to do their own thing without even having to ask me. So the culture, it permeates you. It sounds silly, but it's something you got to feel it and see it. But once it's in you, you're done. You're not going anywhere else. And so we all know each other, for better or worse, and what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So I think the experience from the resident side is so consistent, so predictable. It works.
So I want to come back to this. So I've got a couple questions. I want to talk about fun as it relates to team members, not just residents. But before we get there, one of the ongoing debates. So I think that life enrichment and it sounds like you guys are doing a terrific job, but I think the life enrichment in the senior living industry in general is an area that needs a lot of work, and that there's just a lot of opportunity to do a better job of creating great resident experiences. But there's a lot of talk right now of creating purposeful experiences, and fun seems to sort of almost be not exactly, but sort of the opposite of purposeful living. How do you balance that?
That's a good question. I think what we do is effectively, one, we listen, and we're really, really good at it. I had, after 15, 20 people were like, hey, where's your community garden? And it's like, wow, we don't have one. So we worked with the city of Tempe, and it's probably one of my more proud projects that I have here. But we have a community garden that is out of this world, and these people are engaged at the highest level. They can't pull themselves out of the garden. They're throwing themselves at it. So the purpose that they're realizing through now developing intergenerational programs in that garden, just all the incredible things that are happening, it's organic. It's growing. Hey, where's your pickleball courts? You know what? We're going to put pickleball courts on the rooftop of the first building that we're building. Well, you can't do that. Yeah, we can, and watch us. And so we've got 3 pickleball courts that are absolutely amazing on the rooftop of this first building we built. The people are up there playing pickleball seasonally, of course, here in Arizona, but throwing themselves at pickleball and just having so much fun. We just create the opportunities and get out of the way and let them do what they want to do. Now we're building this rooftop restaurant with the brewery. You could literally be playing pickleball with your friends, grab your towel, walk right along the roof all the way over to building 2, sit down and grab a brew that's been brewed by your fellow residents, our brew crew, have lunch with your friends, go, meet your daughter, your grandchildren, play some cornhole up there, do all the things that you just, basically looking around at what we see in our lives and bringing it to Friendship Village.
So this is really, so what you said is really critical to me. I have a good friend of mine, in fact, that has spent some time in senior living and is actually exiting out of senior living. She's a very young senior. And the big complaint was that they were not able to really live their best life in senior living, that it became much more constricting and very unpleasant. And it just was not as full of life. So, yeah. And it sounds like you've been able to fix that or avoid that.
We really have, Steve. I mean, and it's funny, I have my residents come up and visit with me. They have brothers and sisters or friends that are living in other communities. and they're just shocked by the feedback that they're getting from these people that are in these other communities. I honestly, I can't say, I don't know what's happening, but they're not happy, and it's unfortunate. We'll have people who live in communities come visit people here and be like, can we take you with us? Can we, how do we, this is not the way our place is. And I don't know. I can't even wrap my mind around it, but it's just a culture of fun.
Yeah, and I think that I love the storytelling. There's a young woman by the name of Sarah Neal who has a TikTok channel. She's a life enrichment director in Arizona. I've got a couple of articles I've written about what she's doing. I visited with her a little bit. But what's real, and she puts out these wonderful, fun TikToks every day. And she's in 4 months, she's got, I don't know, millions of views and millions of likes. It's incredible. But what's fascinating to me about it is that when you read the comments on her videos, is she talks about how there are people who go in there and say, oh man, I want to go work in a place like that. And other people are going in there and saying, oh man, I would love to go live there. And I think that largely we think people don't want to work in our organizations, in our industry, in our buildings, and that they don't want to really live there. They only do it because they have to. And I think what you're describing and what she describes is what our possibility is if we create the right programming and we tell the story right.
100%. I think that is it. And for me, I'm a pretty selfish dude, and happiness is a must. And so I think this is what I would encourage to people. Again, I'm keeping it real. I'm not the brightest guy in our room. I really not. And it's not hard to find people smarter than me to surround myself with, and then get the heck out of their way, and let them do their jobs. But it has to be fun, or else I'm out. And so everything I've been able to do is bring things that are important to my life and make them a part of my job. Barbecuing and smoking. I used to be on a competition barbecue team. We have an incredible smoker here that I can do 1,000 pounds of brisket and feed the whole entire village, or do a fundraiser, or, celebrate our first responders and have a barbecue around that. We build events around things that I've brought in because I love it. We do all kinds of, I bartend 4 happy hours a month here at Friendship Village. I mean, we party. And I don't mind partying.
Yeah, well, I love what Leanne just put in the comments on my team, that we think people don't really want to work or live there. And I think that's so self-defeating when we actually look at senior living and say, I can't imagine why anybody would want to work any place other than senior living. I can't imagine why any older person would want to live any place other than senior living, recognizing, of course, that it's not for everybody, but with sort of that attitude. There are enough people out there to fill every senior living community to the brink and overflowing, who have the economic capacity to do that right now. So I want to come back to this question of, how do you do fun with your team members?
Right. We get out and about quite a bit. It's not unusual to go to a D-backs game, spring training, the Phoenix Open. We go out and do team building events that I'm blessed with an incredible group of team members who create activities, and we always incorporate education, and they are experts at it. So it's not just fun. We're learning and we're growing as individuals, but doing all kinds of fun things. Last week we went to this place that does game shows. So you are basically on the set of The Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune, and we had, 30 team members there competing against one another, and just the fellowship that happened. I think teams that play together, stay together.
Yeah.
And we play and they stay.
That is really, really cool. Well, I want to try a couple of lightning round questions with you, if that's okay.
Yes.
I'm going to sort of tell the audience that he has not seen these questions, and so it might make it a little bit nervous making. So my first one is actually really easy, though. Would you rather text or talk?
Text.
Okay. And best advice that you've ever gotten?
keep your shoes polished.
Okay, great. And the worst advice you've ever gotten?
I don't know. I think it's all good, to be honest. I love advice and I take it serious. I can't come up with something, Steve.
Okay. What else? What's your biggest pet peeve?
Just negative attitudes. Can't, my dad always used to say, can't die in the poorhouse. And it's so true. That defeating attitude.
Cool. If you were giving, so we've got Jada who is producing this, who's actually in your neck of the woods. She's in Arizona. She's a new grad. What advice would you give her about senior living?
I think it's an incredibly rewarding career, and to be able to be in the lives of these folks and touch them and their families. And, I really got lucky to serve the greatest generation and those folks who endured the Depression, endured World War II, and seeing how they chose to handle that, and then realizing it's a choice as to how you handle these difficult things that come across your way. Once you realize it's a choice and that you're in control of it, I think the sky's the limit. So I think embracing the fact that you're making the decisions, you're in control, and find something that you love. And when you do what you love, the money comes as a byproduct of it. It really does. A lot of folks get so wound up in making a bunch of money, but the reality is, if you seriously throw yourself at something you truly love, one, you're not working, and two, you're going to be successful. And that's when the money comes and you're going to be just fine.
You bet. So as you look sort of into your crystal ball for senior living and what it might look like over, say, the next 5 or 10 years, what do you think will change and what do you think will be the same?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think that would be something I'm guilty of, is probably not looking quite as far down the road. But I think as of right now, I feel like we've got the secret sauce. It just keeps coming in terms of interested people that are putting their names down on the ready list to move into Friendship Village. And so I think, again, we run this place like a college campus. Do not treat these folks like they're old. Don't treat them like seniors. Treat them like people. And I think when you do that, that's why we're being so successful. So I think really not changing a whole lot of what we're doing, but just looking to have fun and listening, because things are going to, pickleball. If you asked me 5 years ago, I would not have brought up pickleball because I didn't know about it. But now it's all the rage, and we've got 3 courts, and we're attracted. We're advertising in places that do pickleball.
Is that right? That's a great idea.
Absolutely, they are. It's amazing. We have a national champion living here now.
Really?
Or his.
So do you play?
Not well, but I can see the attraction, and what I think ultimately becomes an addiction, to be honest. But it is an incredible game. I get it, and I really want to start playing more. We're coming out of the summer now, and I need to get up there.
Yeah, I've never played, and I keep thinking I've got to go play. I know some people in I'm in Sacramento, but I have some friends in Southern California who are pickleball addicts. But I don't really know anybody up here who plays, and I'd love to go try it. So
for me, I'm super competitive, and I can tell you, I have gone head to head with 80-year-olds, gave 110%, did not want to lose, and got worked. So any game where age doesn't become a factor, that's brilliant. It's beautiful. I love it.
It is. So we're about out of time, but here's my last question is, do you have a question for me?
Well, what got you in the business? You're passionate and you're making a difference in the senior living space. How'd you get in?
So it's actually a great story. I'm going to see if I can do it in a minute or a little bit less, but I originally, when I was, a little older than Jada, who's like 18 or 19 or 16 or something. No, she's in her early 20s. But I was probably in my mid or late 20s, and I had a friend who had bought and claimed to be making a fortune doing a little 15-bed board and care in Northern California. And so I started running the numbers, and it looked like he was getting rich. And so I went out and found this. I just am totally embarrassed that I own this place. It was just it wasn't quite a hellhole, but it was not nice. And we bought it and we ran it reasonably well. And we went and built some buildings, but I used to think I was undercapitalized. I was undercapitalized, but it wasn't money. It was smarts. I just didn't understand sort of high-end or medium to high-end senior living. And so it all came crashing down. I went off to Silicon Valley for a while, and then I decided to come back. And along the way, I learned I could write. And when I came back into senior living, I actually thought I'd go into operations, but I started this little blog called Senior Housing Forum and started writing. We started making a difference in the industry. And that is where I am here today. And we continue, you talked earlier about this idea that, if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. It's like your hobby and likes fun. And that's kind of where I am today. I love what I'm doing. I love being able to make a difference in the industry, to be able to look back at the end of the year and say, because we exist here in the industry is better off. People are better off. So,
well, it shows that you are a positive force. We need more folks like you. So thank you.
Thank you, Cole. Thank you very much. I want to come visit.
Please.
You got a guest apartment I can come stay in for a few days?
We have 4 of them.
Awesome. I have got to go do that. I got to go do that. So, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Links are there. Thank you so much for watching. Will I see you at Leading H, by the way?
Yes, I'll see you in Chicago.
Perfect. I will see you there. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great weekend as we go out and we make the lives of people who live and work in senior living better.
Yes, sir.